Okay, if everybody could take their seats, please.
Maisie Bonita.
Great middle name.
It is a great middle name, right? Maisie Bonita.
All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Tonight we have Pastor Russ Wynn of the Springs of Bonita Outdoor Church for the invocation. Thank you, Russ.
Thank you, Mayor. And I just want to say thank you for allowing me. I pastor the Outdoor Church downtown Bonita. Believe it or not, it's going on 15 years that we've been doing that. And it's hard to believe. My hair was a lot darker 15 years ago. But anyhow, I just want to say to the City Council, thank you for allowing us to have those services each Sunday. And also thank you for passing the Christmas Eve service that we do. Just to let you know, last year they estimated close to 2,000 people that came out to that 1 hour Christmas Eve service, and the city does a great job in dressing that park to the nines, especially around the holidays. And so thank you for allowing us to be able to have services out there. Let's bow our heads, please. Father, we come to you and we just ask your blessings to be on our gathering today. Thank you today as we gather here in this chamber with grateful hearts for an opportunity to serve our community. And grant us wisdom as we discuss the needs of our city and guide our thoughts so that our decisions reflect integrity, fairness, and compassion. Bless our city, its residents, and all who work to make it a safe and thriving, welcoming place. Give strength to those facing hardships and inspire each of us to contribute to a future marked by justice, peace, and hope. We ask for your guidance and blessings on our meeting today. We ask this in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call.
Councilmember Bogas.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Purdon.
Here.
Councilmember Carr.
Here.
Mayor Gibson.
Here.
Councilmember Corey.
Here.
Councilmember Fullick.
Here.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Here.
Thank you. All right, public comment on agenda items. Mike, I think we have
speaker slips. Ben Hershenson. And Ben, you will be speaking on 9A at this time, and then when we get to the zoning item, you can speak on that. And Ben Hershenson will be followed by Grant Lundberg.
Good evening, members of the council and also city staff. Ben Hershenson, Avonlea Drive. And those who know me well, brevity is never part of my relationship with people, but I am going to really try hard. I want to take an opportunity to thank our city councilor for District 4, Chris Corey, and also Assistant City Manager Matt Feeney for the support that they have given to the various communities in the area and for coming up this proposal that I'm hoping the council will approve. Not everybody might agree, but I think this is as good agreement as could possibly happen with respect to compensation for some of the communities that were affected by the construction of the lakes in the Bonita del Sol development. And my lake, for example, is at the lowest it's been in 20 years. And we know it wasn't a heavy rainy season, but no water even got high enough to flow out of our lake through the control structure. So it is extremely low, and others are even, they're smaller lakes, but their lakes are even lower perhaps than mine relative to the size. So I would hope that the council members would find it appropriate to endorse this plan put forth. And again, I thank Councilor Corey, who was very receptive to the needs of the community. And I'll take my leave at this point and see if you folks can't support us in this effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben.
Grant Lundberg, and he'll be followed by Gene Boyd.
Good evening. Thank you very much, folks. And I want to thank you very much for a lovely Armed Forces Day down at the park. It was a little chilly, but it was wonderful. A lot of people were there. We really enjoyed it as a veteran. And I want to thank you very much for that upkeep. I am here over at the Greens. I live here. I've been here over 22 years, back when we weren't a city, and how we got the first mayor in, but that's about past. But I'm here now where the development is going on between Cockleshell, Paradise, and Murdoch's, there where the roundabout is. Things are going good. I voted against it many times at meetings here to keep the golf course. We lost it, we got this here. We're satisfied with it. The only thing is the storm sewer system is, I was in the storm sewer committee 20 years ago. We become a city only for about 9 months. And anyways, we're here, and I'm here about where I live at the Greens. We're a circle now, we're an island. One road in, one road out, and the lake in the middle has gone dry. And we used to get that water pumped when the golf course was in business. I used to open up that well and start that engine to get the fire hydrants because we weren't a city yet. And we used to locate there out of the pumps, out of the golf course. And now everything's changed. I grant you. But now I'm getting the complaints because people know I lived there the longest, and they want to know what's going on with the lake in the middle. Thank you very much. And if there's a committee or something, I would like to come to it sometime or whatever. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jean Boyd, and she'll be followed by Richard Panic.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council and staff. I thank you for the opportunity to speak here tonight. My name is Jean Boyd, and I am Southland's HOA President. I have lived at 24981 Fairwinds Lane for 22 years. Our community has been negatively impacted by things within the Pulte development. We have some grave concerns about what the dewatering practices did to our HOA water levels. We were given notices when the dewatering would occur, and we saw the water leave. The first time the water returned, but the second time when they dewatered, the water did not come back to us. I don't know where it went, but not us. I attended a meeting at Town Hall with Bonita Springs officials and other HOA presidents, and the continuous low pond levels at Southlands were displayed on the screens with a presentation from Dan Waters. During the rainy season, we did not see much increase at all. Today, all of our culverts are completely exposed. Our water level has never returned, and our pond is almost empty. We have some legitimate concerns about how this dewatering process affected our pond levels. On July 30th, 2025, I had a meeting at my home with a representative from Pulte and our Vice President, Scott Lamer. We viewed the pond, and the representative from Pulte took photos. We were shocked when he told us that the dewatering had no effect on our pond. Pulte had no responsibility and suggested maybe we had a leak. Today, I am hoping for answers and accountability of what activities caused the extreme loss of water from our pond during this construction process. We would like to request a technical review by the city staff or an engineering firm to investigate the cause of our extreme water loss and possible solutions. Our concern is not aesthetics as much as the fact that our pond is disappearing. So I want to thank you so much for listening to me. And Mayor, may I please submit to the clerk the statements for the records? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Richard Panic.
Good evening, council and affected members. Richard Panic, I'm a resident of Gulf Lake Circle and have been so for over 30 years now, before we were even a city, and just thinking about it. So I have a property that abuts the lake. That's the issue right now. And I have enjoyed having the lake there. We had to pay a premium to be owners of that lake from the Masali Development Group. So it seems like that premium is dissipating now, like the water has dissipated from the lake. I pretty much understand, I believe, what I think the city is trying to do to alleviate the flooding that occurs on the eastern side of Bonita towards the interstate. And it's simply something that needed approaching, and I should agree with that. And I can understand that when the golf course was eliminated and the 10 lakes were developed, that the level was set by engineering such that it could accommodate any further flow of water in the event of unusual weather conditions. And so in so doing, the water table of the entire area has gone down, not only in the Lake of the Greens, but the adjacent lakes as well. And so I think all that we need to ask the council to consider and to move forward is to take the area that's between where the grass was and where the lake is currently, and place some fill in there with some turf on top and make it look presentable again. Times I'm outside puttering around and trying to beautify my property, make sure taxes are up there, and there are some homes that are up for sale, and people sometimes stop by and ask questions. What are the HOA dues, and how long you've been here and stuff like that. But they do notice that the lake level is down, and they ask me what's happening there. I understand it's the dry season. I says, yes, it's a dry season, but it's been a dry season for a couple of years like that now, and we're hoping that the city will move forward and bring that back to fruition to what it looks like landscaped. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, sir. That's the end of the...
Yes.
Is there anybody else that would like to make public comment on agenda items, but not the zoning items? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item 6, the ceremonial presentations. We have the awards of the Halloween decor contest. If Sugar Shack and Heaven Sent would come up front, please.
Gary, aren't you going to bring your landlord?
Thank you. Yes, so every year at Halloween and Christmas, the city does a decoration contest to see who does the best job down on Old 41. And this year, Sugar Shack came in first place with the great job they did decorating. And Heaven Sent Florist and For Heaven Shakes Ice Cream came in second. And Ingalls Bicycles, whoever they are, came in third. So, yeah, but just want to say congratulations to everybody. Good job. Great job. Great job.
As always.
Good job.
Thank you.
And I have these.
Alphabetical order.
Okay. And that would be you guys.
There you go.
We can do a photo. Good luck on the Christmas ones. All right, moving on to the consent agenda.
Motion to approve? Second?
Motion and a second.
I'd like to request to pull item 7A for clarification on item 11 in the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay. Pulling 7A.
7A.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second on the remainders.
Councilmember Fullick.
Aye.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Purdon.
Aye.
Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Gibson.
Aye.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
All right, Jim, 7.
Yeah, real quick, it's just a small, for the record, the Daughters of the American Revolution that are involved with the cemetery is the Estero Island chapter, not the Barefoot Beach chapter as designated in the minutes. If we could go ahead and correct that, and other than that, I'm fine with the minutes.
I agree, that is a valid correction. I agree with it.
So can we do a motion to accept them as amended, or do we
I
have to
will
amend them?
make a motion to accept them as amended.
Second.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Purdon. Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Gibson.
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Any comments on the consent agenda? All right, moving on to public hearings.
This is the second reading of an ordinance of the City of Bonita Springs, Florida, adopting an amendment to the comprehensive plan to update the 10-year water facilities supply work plan, providing a conflicts clause and a severability clause, and providing for an effective date and for other purposes.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Jacqueline Genson for the record. This is the second hearing and adoption hearing for the water supply plan update. This amendment was transmitted to the State Land Plating Agency back in June. It was reviewed by the state and the reviewing agencies. We did receive a comment from the state, and then also some comments from the Water Management District. So we went ahead and coordinated with, especially the Water Management District, on their comments, and that information was included in the staff report. I do have that information available in a slide format, so I can quickly go over those with you for your benefit and also the public. The state's letter is in attachment C, and the language for them was to go ahead and actually formally cite the version of the document that we were referencing in the text amendment. So we went ahead and provided a date and then the specific author of that document. And that was their technical assistance comment, and that's included on page 8 of the staff report. And those changes did affect the text amendment itself and also the water facilities plan update document, which is attachment B of the staff report. And then this is the change that's actually included in your packet and is the actual changes to the text language. So the changes in red are those changes that we made based on the state's input. The next comments were from the district, and these comments are a little different. They're not what we call technical assistance comments. They're actually comments that could form a basis of challenge by the district if we didn't answer them correctly. So what happened is, with their comments, we went ahead and scheduled a meeting with the district. Kim Hoskins from BSU also attended with me because a lot of the questions seemed to be structured around Bonita Springs Utilities in their franchise area versus really the city of Bonita Springs. So we went ahead and had that meeting with the district staff and kind of walked them through those comments and updated those comments accordingly. So what you'll see is some of their comments, and again, I know there's a lot on the screen, but this was included in your staff report packet, but essentially a lot of their questions were geared towards the Bonita Springs franchise area in terms of population and the service area, but again, the water supply plan is just for the city of Bonita Springs. The other areas that Bonita Springs services, such as the village of Estero or unincorporated Lee County, those plans were updated with those respective jurisdictions. So we were walking through the district on those parameters where we felt that their comments were a little out of step with what they were looking for as it relates to the city of Bonita Springs. So our comments are in red. The next was, again, some more comments about the water facility plan update, where they wanted to get some more information on Bonita Springs Utilities, wastewater demand, and treatment capacity. So Ms. Hoskins put that information together, and we provided that as part of the resubmittal documentation. They also wanted us to change or actually adopt a separate objective and policy that memorialized the land development code regulation into the comprehensive plan. We don't tend to like to do that because ordinances change, especially with the land development code regulations. So the more specificity that you put into your comprehensive plan, the harder it is to amend it, and it's really unnecessary. So we went ahead and responded to them saying we didn't think that was appropriate. So that language is included in that second comment under 3.4 from the district. The next item they had questions on were capital improvement projects from Bonita Springs Utilities, and a lot of that Kim had to walk them through in terms of the timing of grant funding and when facilities came online. And once the district understood that, they were pretty comfortable with that, but we also included that in our response. The next section dealt with, has some two comments. What they were trying to do was see if the city was interested in creating what they call a mandatory reuse zone. Again, creating a legislation language like that really needs additional dialogue between the city council and Bonita Springs Utilities, especially because they're the private wastewater facility provider. So we explained to them that it's not appropriate at this time and that both entities are aware of their requests. And should a future discussion come alight between those two agencies and there is a desire to create such policies, then we could go ahead and evaluate that at that time. But it's not appropriate right now with this update. And then their other question dealt with some level of service questions for Bonita Springs Utilities, and we went ahead and addressed those as well. So based on all the comments that we've received, we went ahead and made the necessary changes to the text amendment and the actual water supply plan document in itself. We also made some minor formatting changes in regards to creating a table of contents, which again was much more formatting, not technical based. So based on those changes, staff is recommending that we adopt with changes and go ahead and submit the adoption package to the state if council so chooses.
Motion to approve.
Motion and a second. Do we need public comment on this?
Yes.
Is there any public comment on this item? All right, seeing none. Roll call.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick.
Aye.
Mayor Gibson.
Aye.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Purden. Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item B.
This is the first reading of an ordinance of the City of Bonita Springs, Florida, approving the petition of Bonita Springs Utilities Incorporated to increase its water aid to new construction fees, certain miscellaneous service charges, and creation of a new RV/mobile home rate class, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Mayor. Andy's here from BSU, but essentially this is an ordinance that required under our franchise and our charter that we adopt all tariff updates through an ordinance. So this is the first reading. It's updates on miscellaneous charges, aid in construction fees, impact fees for lack of a better term, and also a new rate class. So, and there was a swapped out page 27 in your packet was swapped out. There was an error, an errant figure from Collier County, and as well as an upgrade on, I believe the fees go from $90 for work after hours to $200, if I recall.
And BSU has a brief presentation to highlight it for transparency purposes if it's the will of the council.
Yeah, I think for everybody at home,
Okay.
so they can understand what's going on.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. What you have included in the packet here is our full rate study that was done by our rate consultant, Reftelis, along with a summary of the changes and a red line and clean version of the updated tariffs. But this is just going to walk through the highlights of the changes to those. So basically, there's no change to the monthly usage rates. So anybody that has a currently residential bill, those rates are not changing at this time. What prompted this was the expansion of our facility that we are currently undergoing the last couple of years, and all of the inflation that we've seen in the costs of that. So We looked at our impact fees, our aid to new construction fees, to make sure that they were in line, or if they needed changing or whatnot, to make sure they keep up with the rising cost of future construction and things like that. And then we also focused on the miscellaneous charges and the proper allocation of those charges. So basically, you know, if you're getting a service, a specific service that the entire base is not getting, you're paying for that specific service. This chart here is just a comparison of our monthly rates. Again, these are the ones that are not changing. You'll see we're on the low end of those in our region. And then this is a chart of our impact fees. Again, we're kind of in the middle here, slightly over the middle. You'll see our existing rate in the middle and then our proposed rate. So we're still, the ranking isn't changing, even though the fees are increasing a little bit. And these, as I mentioned earlier, these impact fees pay for a portion of the plant capacity and things like that are expanding. So the impact fees are basically new growth, you know, paying for new growth. So the miscellaneous fees that are increasing, basically, we just want to make sure we're covering the costs of those. Some areas we're not. We were finding that they were costing us more to perform. Therefore, that gets subsidized by the rest of the ratepayers. So we wanted to get those back in line. And then, yeah, basically costs have increased and not covering the actual cost. So I'll get into some of those. Some of those costs are entities that have private fire protection lines. There is a cost to maintain those for the utility. So if you have more than one connection to your property, a potable line and a fire line, this recognizes that cost. Florida statutes do allow a charge for that. It is not as expensive, or doesn't cost as much to maintain that separate connection. It's not used all the time, but the Florida statutes do allow that 1/12 of a base charge. So we're proposing to add that, and that's similar to some other utilities in the area that do have that. So that'll allow us to recoup that cost. Another one is the backflow inspection and repairs. Right now, for larger this is going to apply to larger backflows that are larger than 2 inches. Currently, we're responsible for ensuring that those entities out there, whether it's commercial or large residential, we have to have them maintain them and submit records of that maintenance to us. That's a regulatory requirement. That is hard to enforce on these. Some people don't do it, and there's some nuances that get into that, if we were to shut them off for that. So we're proposing in this new rate study to take over the maintenance of those ourselves. That way we can better have those records when regulatory agencies ask. And I think we can do it a lot more cost effective than the outside entities in the area doing that. So in here is the fee of $85 a year to inspect those larger backflows, and the repair or replacement rates wouldn't apply unless testing indicated they needed repair or replacement. Then we have a high strength surcharge. Those are on the wastewater side. So they would apply to any industrial, food service establishment or of the like when they're exceeding the limits of the sewer use policy that we currently have in place. We don't have anything now to do that, but what happens is if they're not abiding by their pretreatment requirements or our sewer use policy, and they're putting large amounts of say fats, oils, and grease or TSS down the drains, that impacts our capacity at the plant and the ability to treat, and costs more to treat that. So again, this is just putting the charge where it belongs if we do identify that. And these charges would be based on actual samples taken to find anybody that was violating and then work with them to get them back in compliance. Here, this one is an addition of a mobile home and RV rate class. We currently don't have one. Other utilities around here do have them. Lee County does have one. It recognizes that they consume less water than a single family home, and it creates a more uniform billing structure for us. But yet it only applies to those communities where you have those multiple units behind 1 meter. So there's going to be, that rate there is a 0.5, recognizing a 0.5 of basically half of what a single family house used. So that would be that base rate going forward. And that looks like, nope, sorry. It stopped me. Did I get to the end? I guess that was the end. Any questions?
Any questions?
So the fees for mobile homes will go down?
There's gonna be, yeah, if they're set up that way per unit, if they're being billed per unit right now, that will go down, yes. If they're billed in some other way, it might have another different effect, but the intent is it's half of what a single family is.
Nigel?
Andy, you're not a big self-promoter, but A, thanks for taking the time. I know you met with most of us, and I learned some things too, but fair to say that in all of South Florida, we still have some of the lowest rates for our residents.
It is fair, yes, we do.
Keep it up.
All right, will do.
Jim?
Well, to go ahead and piggyback on Nigel's comments, the briefing that you had done for us earlier, there was the discussion the public should know is that from a water utility standpoint, we are in wonderful shape and have certified for a 10-year plus capacity in terms of being able to meet the needs of the city. And I must compliment you on your organization. It's been well run, and God willing, all of those estimated things 20 and 30 years out hold. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? All right. Do we
Motion
need
to approve?
public comment on this one?
Thank you.
You just motion to approve?
There's
Second.
Yeah, there would be public comment.
all right, do we have any public comment on this item?
Second reading.
Seeing no public comment?
This is a first reading.
First reading.
Yeah,
This is the first reading.
You still have the public you still have the public comment, but there's no.
Yeah. Okay, but no motion automatically goes to second reading.
I'm sorry for putting that in the green sheet.
Okay. Moving on to item C.
This is the first reading of an ordinance of the City of Bonita Springs, Florida, amending Division 1 titled Generally, Division 2 titled Local Planning Agency, Division 3 titled Planning Commission Local Planning Agency, and Division 4 titled Zoning Board of Article 2 Administration, Chapter 4 Zoning of the Land Development Code, renaming Division 2 as Planning and Zoning Board, providing for membership, powers, duties, and procedures, providing for conflicts, severability, codification, and an effective date.
Thank you. So following up on our discussion at the last meeting, I've prepared the proposed ordinance, and I've cleaned up the processes a little bit, putting all the standards for each of the boards under one, but essentially what I've put in front of you is a 7-member board that serves both as the zoning board and the LPA. So all their functions would all stay the same, the standards of approval would all be the same, everything remains the same, only the process and the number of meetings changes. And so for purposes of Senate Bill 180 and the provisions that have prevented us from making changes to the Land Development Code, I think this would be a compliant means of doing that. So you'd now have the one board who would be looking at comprehensive plan amendments, rezonings, variances, special exceptions, and other items that you would send to them. This also would mean that it could all be done at a single consolidated meeting. So when you hear, like you do with the Ravenna project, when you hear a project, oftentimes you're hearing the comp plan and the zoning at the same hearing. And so instead of having two different boards and two different months reviewing two different aspects, you'd have the same board doing both at once.
We had also mentioned doing all the land uses from the other boards too.
Yeah, so the other boards, it's a policy decision. If the two other boards that I can think of off the top of my head that are affected by this, that are affected in land use would be the Historical Preservation Board. There's an item under my comments later to address that, as well as the Tree Advisory Board has some input. There are elements of those boards that for whether it's the Tree City designation or certain grants and funding available for certified local governments under historic preservation that require certain, not the process, but require certain membership requirements. So from that perspective, those elements that would require specific membership, if you wanted to move those boards' powers fully into this land use board, we would need to make sure that the membership of the land use board reflects those same members. So you might need someone with historical information, an architect, et cetera, on the board. Alternatively, there's no obligation that you have, for instance, the tree board have to look at tree issues related to development permits. They could still do other issues related to trees. The Historical Preservation Board, I think, would have to be involved in those aspects in which they're involved in. So, but I don't know what the value of the certification is. You know, I know the process, but I don't know what the value is. So it's a policy question for you.
Okay. Well, I mean, I would like to see everything that has to do with land use be rolled into one board just to streamline the whole thing.
I agree.
Jim, you had a comment?
Yeah, being the new kid on the block, I've heard this debated over the last year plus in terms of this, and I do have some questions after reading the proposed ordinance that will take a few minutes, and bear with me. And this is whether it's community development, whether it's fellow council members, whether it's yourself, the attorney for the city. We cite in the proposed ordinances is that it will shorten and consolidate larger amendments and their accompanying rezonings. Using the example of the Ravenna Lakes project, how would that have been different than the process today that we've seen?
So nothing changes from the council's perspective. You saw both pieces, the plan amendment and the rezoning at the same time. But before it comes to the council, it goes to the local planning agency,
right,
one meeting, and then it goes to another meeting of the zoning board. Each one of them weigh in independently on it. Generally, from a timing standpoint, but I'm going to look at Jackie and John, the LPA sees it first.
Right.
But ultimately, both those bodies are just making recommendations, and then
They're advising consent rules, correct. So my question is that in the case of an amendment to text and maps, in the case of Ravenna Lakes, and approval of the transmittal to the state, you've got this 30 to 45-day period between the initial decision to transmit the proposal. Are you making a decision on the proposed zoning before it goes to transmittal? These are the procedures that I'm trying to figure out. So I'm trying to figure out where these, quote, savings and efficiencies are that here I vision it goes to this supergroup. They provide their advice and consent to council. Council approves the proposed amendments. The transmittal goes to the state. It comes back to us for a formal hearing. I don't want to make sure I'm wah. Comes back for a hearing. And so at that time, do you kick in the super board upon approval?
So the process would go that it doesn't get transmitted at all until it comes to the council. So the savings on time for the applicant is on the front end before it gets to you. So probably at least a month, depending on when the two groups meet, depending on when staffing gets their staff reports done. So, you know, that I would say that's at least 1 month, maybe two, depending on how that breaks as far as when the applications are deemed sufficient. So an application comes in, it's reviewed for sufficiency, it starts getting scheduled for meetings, staff starts to work with the various boards to see if they can get a quorum on certain dates. They confirm those dates, then those dates get laid out. Then they go through the hearings and come forward. Now, I don't know from a staffing standpoint, is it easier to do a consolidated application to do, you know, one staff report addressing everything in one, or addressing them in two different things? So I don't know if there's additional savings other than the public hearings part. I'd have to ask John and Jackie to answer, which they appear to be debating themselves.
They were flipping a coin.
Good evening. In terms of staff reports, we'll have to figure that as we go forward. It will also depend on which boards are combined into this one board. In terms of the savings, I think Derek's correct. It is as opposed to going to a local planning agency hearing and then also going to a zoning board hearing, they'd be one hearing.
So excuse me.
Yes,
so to clarify, in the case of Ravenna Lakes, they had both made primarily a land use proposal and also a zoning pitch. And the zoning pitch would typically be addressed by the zoning board? And can you address both of those things at the same time in this combined board before you take a vote on transmittal to the state?
You can for the advisory boards. In the case for Vina Lakes, they have not presented their zoning yet, so.
Well, I understand that,
But-
but
so
in a
that's-
theoretical environment, since they had all this stuff together.
Correct. So what would happen under this new presumed board, both of those hearings would take place at one meeting, both the zoning board and the LPA. You would
And
have.
would they stop after one presentation for the land use and then go into the separate meeting on zoning?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So you would have two different standards of review. As you all know, it's legislative review for comp plan amendments. It's a quasi-judicial for zoning hearings. Those recommendations would then be taken to you all. You would then determine whether you wanted to transmit the comp plan amendment. When it returns to you, that would be when, the
Second
earliest
hearing.
time you would have these zoning hearing. You could, how we do it now, that'd probably be your first reading. Before it would be the second reading. Anyway, you would time those two hearings together. And so I think Derek's correct. Once you start getting into the process and once it reaches your level, the savings has already been realized. It follows basically the same process from that point forward. It's really just on the front end. Do you have one advisory board hearing or do you have two advisory board hearings? And to make things a little more exciting, because most of the properties that we're dealing with now are a little more difficult, an applicant may not want both of them at one hearing, but it does provide them the opportunity to schedule them that way.
So if I step back, there's a potential net gain for a petitioner if they have their ducks in a row, like Seagate.
Yes, sir.
But like 90% of the stuff, it's probably not the case.
I don't know if it would be.
What I've seen to date.
Well, let me clarify something else. When we started this process of discussion, the council started probably almost 2 years ago thinking about it, after we had a big change up on the zoning board. The original discussion, I believe, and the remaining council members can correct me if I'm wrong, was to look at something more close to what Estero does. And having been, village attorney in Estero previously when that happened, their goal of creating their mega board was not to shorten anyone's process, but to make sure that all the people who would be looking at every stage were looking at every stage at the same time. So that you weren't talking about having a project come forward and neighbors come out and talk at the comp plan level and say, we're concerned that there's going to be impacts on us, and they'll say, well, this is just the comp plan stage, and that's really at the zoning stage, and then they get the zoning board. Well, that's, when we get to the site plan, that's where we're going to really talk about what the buffer is going to be like. So their goal of consolidation was to say, we're going to look at everything from what you're doing at a density intensity level down to the architecture all at one point. And that was the original direction given to staff and myself to start looking at. Because of the bills that have been passed by the legislature, we can't change anything to add to process. So this present incarnation of what's proposing is just the consolidation because of the fact that we're getting to the end of when both those bills have effect, but also the end of time when we have to start reappointing board members. And we have had questions over the last 2 years by the board members, who's going to want to stay on, who's going to, so the two processes, I agree, it doesn't change the process, except right now it benefits the property owner by making it a little more consolidated and having both boards looking at the same issues. But I think the overall goal was at one point that we would change not just the makeup of the boards, but also the standards that they would review. So they'd be looking at a more cohesive project at that time.
And that's where I think the benefit is as well. And I think you're about ready to speak, but I think that when you looked at some of the presentations for comp plan amendments, there's a lot of discussion, just like Derek had said.
Exactly.
We'll deal with that later. Well, if you're dealing with it at the same hearing, and most of the recent comp plan amendment presentations have relied heavily upon their zoning applications. So a lot of the things that were discussed, a lot of the items that were presented dealt more with zoning than they did with the consistency of the comp plan.
I guess the concern that I have is, one, you're eliminating one public forum in terms of comment. Period. Two, so there aren't really two separate notifications for the zoning piece in terms of what they want to formally execute on the land. And two, the physical discussion in terms of how we want to use the land. So technically, there is a reduction of community input before it comes to council for consideration by this board.
But that also cuts both ways in the fact that you don't have the frustration of public comments at a comp plan level saying, we worry about that at a later hearing. So
I guess in watching the LPA, I didn't necessarily see that come from the LPA.
So it's not generally from the LPA. The board members generally know their role in terms of what their level of review is. It really gets into, like you said, when you get an advertisement that there's a development that's proposed close to your house, a lot of people are not familiar enough to realize there's a different level of review for different types of applications. They show up, they want to talk about setbacks, and they may not be at that level. So it depends on what your priorities are as to which of those works best.
So I'm gonna say something from my experience from the other side of this, developer side of this, is that we're going from 5 public meetings to 4. So there's a neighborhood informational meeting, then there's the planning meeting, then there's the zoning meeting, then there's 2 readings in front of the city council. When those neighborhood informational meetings were created, and I'm not speaking specific to the city of Bonita Springs, lots of communities have. Initially I think that there was a lot of pushback from developers. They didn't want to be in meetings with the neighbors and negotiating with neighbors. But I think that they, were saving the city councils and commissions a lot of time having these first discussions about issues in an open hearing when there's not an opportunity to really get into the weeds. But you also get a lot of members of the public who have concerns start to get apathetic after they've been to 2 and 3 and 4 hearings and they don't show up for the last ones. So I completely understand the sentiment, but it's not 3 meetings, it's 4.
Yes.
So.
But again, we're trying to minimize public input. So anyway.
So Jacqueline Genson, for the record, I would say you're not minimizing public input at all, because each application has to have its public notification through courtesy mailings, newspaper advertisements, property posting. So the public will be aware when a specific case is going to a hearing, and they do have the opportunity to speak on that petition. So, and two, what I would say about this process, it gives applicants the option to schedule their land use case and their zoning case at the same hearing. Doesn't mean that they might be ready to have those 2 applications going at the same hearing. It's an opportunity where if the stars align and they're ready to go, we have applicants that do have their cases together and they're ready to go, and then we have some that don't. So I think this is an opportunity where it could happen, but there's no decrease in public participation at all.
Okay. Specifically within the ordinance, we had a conflict between the appointment of boards between zoning and the LPA. In the case of the LPA, it's approval by the city council, and in the case of zoning, it's by the appointment by the mayor with advice and counsel of the council members. Background on that? I mean, from my end, my preference is that if we're talking about what this is, I'd love to see where each district has a seat at the table and an at-large member is really what, from my end, that to balance the input. The second piece is really the fact that in the current process, we actually have, with the 2 boards, you have 14 eyes looking at the proposal and provide that appropriate input along with the staff and public. So it makes us, provides us a broader input when we consider the appropriateness of a project. So those are my comments, those are my concerns, and I think that, I think you've answered most of my questions. Thank you.
Is there any other comments?
Yeah, I'll make a comment.
you know, the matters to be discussed in a zoning hearing and the matters to be discussed in a comp hearing are by definition different.
Mhm.
One is the legislative session, one is the policy section.
Right.
The problem is it's oftentimes difficult for members of those respective boards to remember what those differences are, because oftentimes they get involved in conversations from the public that really don't relate to what the functions are of those boards. What the real problem is that it's difficult for the public to understand the differences between comp plan amendments and zoning. Therefore, if you combine things, you know, you're not going to run into situations where the public gets up to address something and they're told, well, no, we're not going to deal with that at the comp plan hearing. You need to go to the zoning hearing, and vice versa. So to me, it enables the public to be heard no matter what it is they want to talk about, whether it's zoning or comp plan amendments, at the same hearing. They don't have to be told, no, you got to come back later. So I'm in favor of doing this because it simply makes it simpler, I think, for the public to participate.
Where I'll respectfully disagree, I think we are in control of who chairs that committee, and if they're not doing their job in effective chairing of the committee and controlling the dialogue, then that's our job to make sure that that chair directs and controls that meeting.
Well, I will simply say that experience proves the fact that there are problems in doing that. People want to be heard. And you may be able to control the hearing, but if you tell somebody they're speaking about something inappropriately or at not the right time, what do you really accomplish by doing that other than making people upset and frustrated? And what we're trying to do is to make people who want to participate by giving their opinion less frustrated and able to do so. So, I just suggest that it's easier to do that in a combined hearing, and we give the option to the applicant to separate them if you want to. So, I just think it's, again, I disagree with how you look at it, but I still think you're a friend.
Derek, then Laura, then Jesse.
I only wanted to point out one item on the membership appointed by the mayor comment. And at first I was thinking, well, that's right, I should change that to everyone gets to appoint one for the district. But then I realized that the other side of that is, and where that language probably came from when pulling these provisions forward from the old language, is that if each member is appointing only the person in their district, and those terms are on a rotating basis, you may never get to appoint anyone. And so the idea of having them recommend somebody, but then the entire council vote on their approval, still gives you a voice in who gets on the board. So in other words, if Councilman Fulix, during his term, his person is appointed, he may only get to appoint someone in the last year of his term because they're on 3-year cycles and they're staggered.
I guess I'm not saying that necessarily, it's the right of the council to go ahead and say, I don't like Jim Fitzpatrick's appointment for District 6, so I really don't care. That I'm not saying would eliminate that it automatically, congratulations, that's the person. But if the guy's or gal is not the appropriate person for the job, I fully expect my fellow council members to say, hey, no.
Well, and the other issue might be if we need somebody that's an architect and it's your turn to appoint and there's not anybody applying from your district, then, we'd have to look outside the district anyway, so. Laura?
It does limit options when you do something like that. And the county commissioners, don't they have just a general master, one person?
They have a hearing examiner's office. And they have, I believe they may have 3 hearing examiners at this time. And so the way the process works for them outside of the staff review, large projects, rezonings, et cetera, will go to the hearing examiner 2 hearings a month generally, and it's more like a courtroom setting. It's very formalistic. Those items do go to the commission. Many of them do go to the commission afterwards, but if, for instance, you're a member of the public, if you do not attend the hearing examiner meeting, you do not get to testify. And you can only testify onto the issues that were relevant and that you testified at lower hearings. So if you came to the hearing examiner because you got noticed and you really weren't sure where you were in the process, and I'm not sure I like this issue, I think that, I think the noise is going to be a problem, and then, it gets approved and you find out it's going to the commission, you wish to go speak to the commission, then you realize, well, wait a minute, actually there's a huge traffic issue in my neighborhood. You're not going to be allowed to speak on those issues. So there's other variations of that too. The city of Cape Coral has a hearing examiner process, which is a little more of a free-for-all. So staff gives a recommendation, and then it goes from the hearing examiner up to the city council. There's no real restrictions on what happens before. So those are all processes.
Jesse?
I just think anytime we have the ability to increase efficiencies and strive towards moving towards the speed of business as an entity, we should try to do that. And I think this is a good step in that direction. It doesn't take away the voice holistically of that organization or the efficiencies of what they do, but it does move what's already a really slow process on a faster track. And I think that's to the benefit of everybody, to all parties involved. So.
Nigel?
Yeah, just a point of clarification, Derek, when you talked about moving it to a single appointment for each council member, I heard you say that or somebody say it would have to be somebody from your district.
That's not in this current.
And I wouldn't want it to be either.
Right.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, because I've got an architect that's in Jesse's district and he's incredibly competent. That's why I want to appoint.
I guess my suggestion would be then if you have required 2 specialty positions like an architect and some infrastructure engineer or whatever, then expand the board to 9 people, and that one position's always an architect and one position's always an engineer.
I think quorum also becomes a problem when you run into situations like that. And then, like, the spirit of what you're trying to do, I get, but if you get somebody who's going to be an appointment, it's almost better that you have somebody who philosophically is going to be along the lines of who you want on the board than it is that they live within the geographical district of which you are confined, which is why we don't get a plethora of great candidates often at one time, because the geographic constrictions are there. And to kind of take you away from that and be like, hey, I know Russ, I would like to appoint Russ because I've known him for a decade and I think that he would be great for that. If he doesn't live in my district, but that's the person that I want, and the people that I have in my district are kind of like, well, I don't know them, but I have an email and a resume, great. I think the person that I put up there should be somebody that I philosophically know and agree with and think will kind of march in the direction that I think we're trying to collectively try to go, as opposed to trying to make something fit that may or may not be there.
Well, the city has a diversity of personalities in terms of its neighborhoods and its demographics. And I think that to ensure the consistency and integrity of voices is a key part of this consideration, and has to be a factor here. But it is what it is.
Laura?
Just want to point out, we're on our agenda is the fact that the Historic Preservation Board doesn't have a quorum, so they can't meet, so we're taking it over. It is hard to get people to volunteer, and so when you know someone and you can get a really good candidate, it shouldn't matter the district.
For the record, I support the consolidation of the Historic Preservation Board functions and the tree board into the zoning board. We have not had any issues that I'm aware of in terms of quorums for zoning or for the local planning agency or getting people to participate in that process. So that may be true on some of the other boards and so forth, but I guess I'd be curious as to what examples we have in terms of filling positions on zoning or in the LPA.
All right. So public comment on this item?
It's not an item for public comment,
Oh,
but if you
okay.
would like to have public comment, that's certainly welcome. There's a number of public.
Okay, yep, we'll do public comment.
It's a public hearing, correct?
Public hearing, but it's not a
Ben Hershenson.
first reading.
In the interest of this full disclosure, I sit currently as vice chair of the zoning board. I have not discussed this with any other zoning board member, so this is what my comments will be strictly my own. Sitting on the zoning board as I have for several years, quite an education. And one of the things that bothered me was duplication of effort. You have the applicant, you have the consultants coming in, they have to repeat that several times. On the issue of public input, that any application requires a mandated public hearing of the neighbors or the people in the neighborhood that something is being planned. And then you have the opportunity with the combined effort of the zoning board and planning council. And so basically what it comes down to, and then you have the third, which will be the city council's final decision. So I think there's an opportunity for better communication perhaps to those people representing the public, better than what we're doing right now. I know it's posted on the site and other written methods, but the point is that to me, as a saying goes, the devil is in the details. But I've been sitting at enough city council meetings over the years, and I keep hearing Bonita government light. The staff and time. Staff and time equals money and time. The consultants equals money equals time. I think this really deserves a serious consideration by the council. And I, for one, support this. I would always say either after a zoning board meeting, I'd go to the city clerk. I would go to the city attorney, and I would say, have you guys ever thought of combining the two? To save time and effort and more efficient. That happens to be my opinion. So I support this possibility. I might very well be causing a situation that I might lose a job. That's okay, the pay is lousy anyway. So I'm not worried about losing anything. So I would hope that this council seriously gives consideration to this. I applaud Attorney Rooney for coming up with this, and not to just kind of deep six it at this point. I think it really should go to a second reading, and I hope that the council will really give serious consideration of putting the two together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben. Any other public comment? All right, so this will automatically go to second reading, but is there consensus to roll the other boards in also?
Yes.
Seemed like we had it. Okay, so if we can alter the,
So what I'll probably end up doing is to part of why we were pushing this quickly is because we have the end of the year coming up and we need to start reappointing boards come January. You'll see it later in the agenda, we have a temporary assignment of duties to the city council from the Historic Preservation Board because we can't get a quorum. I'll probably come up with some kind of temporary resolution to assign those duties to the new board when that gets appointed. Because I'll need to get with John and work out all the details of what elements of the tree board and the historic preservation actually require land use input and which ones don't. That way you can choose to keep the boards and just move the duties and figure out the rest later on.
Great.
sounds good. All right, moving on to 9A. Chris?
Yeah, well, this is what Ben referenced at the beginning of the meeting in public comment. Compensation for the 6 communities affected by the regional stormwater improvement project. At issue is the fact that for whatever reasons, and I'm sure Matt can get into the details, but what the bottom line is that there are lakes that are at low levels. The feeling of the community, it's been impacted by the construction of our stormwater project. The good of it is that even if they're at low levels, they provide us additional capacity for stormwater runoff in the future. But I think it's something that we as a city should do in terms of trying to improve the look of those lakes and for the benefit of the neighbors of those lakes. And, you know, I think if I lived on a lake that was showing naked shorelines and so forth, I would want to see an improvement of it because it probably impacts my property value of my home. So I think this is one of the things that we could do for the residents. They certainly have put up with a lot with the construction of 325 homes in the area, dirt, dust, debris, and everything else. And I think it's a good use of city funds, and it would take the sting out of some of the things that they've had to put up with. And so I would move that we go ahead with the plan. I'll let Matt address whatever he wants to address in terms of specifics.
Sure. What we kind of put forward was the idea that, like Chris said, there's been some recession along these lakes. There are various reasons, and in some cases it was systems that really for many years were not functioning the way they were designed, and when we replumbed the golf course, they started to function the way they were designed, and that did create this issue. That's really unique to one of the communities. The other ones had higher control elevations, which is kind of the starting level that the water in a stormwater pond can be at in rainy season. So they also, below that elevation, have bleeders that are just a little bit bigger than a pop can that allow water to draw down. And so once they were connected to the system that we designed to provide regional treatment, as this gentleman pointed out here in the yellow, to achieve that flood control, it was at a lower elevation, and so the lake levels can slowly bleed out of that bleeder and create the recession. The other thing that's happened, which I think honestly we looked at it for just about a year with Barron Collier's folks, doing the survey work. We had a kind of a lackluster rainy season, but I don't think these situations are going to go away, even if we had a robust rainy season. So we thought, well, this idea of looking at based on a 4-to-1 slope, 12-foot strip of planting for plants that could live in that type of environment, but the communities could use the dollars however they wanted. If they wanted, a nice sod lawn, some of them have that, some of them don't, have at it. But we would need a release from Derek, for the funds to be released, so that you didn't have this request coming, multiple times. If someone took the money, that would be it.
Could they also raise that bleeder, or is that something that they'd have to go through the water management district?
I don't want to speak for people's individual stormwater ponds, and I don't think you as city council want to be involved in them artificially holding water back higher than it was designed to be, and then negatively impacting them on a flood situation.
Mm-hmm.
Just a technical, that's what I was thinking of, Mike, but if you added a bleeder, and then could you alternate between them based on seasons?
I don't want to speak to trying to modify their individual private stormwater permits.
Gotcha.
We have our own permitted system. They can choose to address it however we want. We're just trying to find a fair basis. The complaints really seem to stem around the recession in the lakes. If they want to modify their permits, to hold more water and have less flood control, I don't think that's something the city wants to be involved in.
Jim, you had a question?
Yeah, my only question is that I saw this probably about maybe 3, maybe 5 years ago. We had a comparable, relatively dry summer, and many of the developments had dramatically reduced water levels in their pond system. I mean, including where you are, Laura, and over in Spanish Wells and so forth. My real question is 12 feet really enough? And because if that's what we need today, my gut says come February, they're going to be right back at. So I don't know if there are solutions in terms of placement of rocks or boulders or something else that don't require vegetation, but I'm just saying that it's going to get worse over the next 2 months. That's all.
Well, there's stormwater ponds, and that elevation's predicated off of a seasonal high water table.
I understand that.
And, you know, we think this is a fair approach,
Okay, so 12 feet should cover it, okay.
Laura?
based on what we're seeing.
And this will be a one-time,
That's what the release would be for, yes.
and what about other communities, though, that say, well, my canal, I need to have it cleared out, you know, this invert needs to be replaced. You know, are people gonna start saying, you took care of this problem, come take care, like, Spanish Wells is a good example. We're actually losing land.
These are stormwater systems that interconnect into the city's regional system that was constructed as part of the golf course. The example that you've given is not something that fits that criteria. So I don't believe that there's a, you know, like a jumping off point or
good.
entering argument there.
I just don't want, you know, to open the floodgates of,
I think we can clearly show that this was a project in the city's budgeted CIP that we received legislative dollars for, and this is interconnected to that project, so this is a one-time fix, a one-time off. And we would need documentation from the attorney to address that, and the fact that this is a one-time solution, and however the community sees fit to utilize that solution, that's in their wheelhouse to use. Any future regulations or changes that they want to make on their own private systems, that's for them to make those decisions in the future.
great, thank you.
Any other comments? We have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second,
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Councilmember Carr,
aye?
Councilmember Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Mayor Gibson,
Aye.
Councilmember Corey,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Purdon,
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick,
Aye.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 10, city attorney items.
So this next item, going back to, I didn't want to bury the lead in the earlier discussion, but we're having issues with the Historic Preservation Board. We have 2 vacancies. We also have some, probably just temporary, but we don't know how long temporary will be, issues with the remaining members to get a quorum. And they have 2 main functions that affect property rights within the city. The first is the 90-day delay, the demolition delay, and Mike can give you more details on that, but the simple answer is if a building is older than, I think, 50 years, it's automatically on the list, whether it has historic structure value or not. And so that's going to come up very often in a lot of issues. The other one are specific historic designated properties. Those properties are actually designated historic structures. They require a special certificate of appropriateness for any changes or demolitions that may occur. That is not being affected by this temporary assignment. We don't have any of those that we're aware of that are in the pipeline. If one comes up, we'll bring it forward for your consideration. But what we're looking to do right now is just to temporarily assign the duties of the review for 90-day demolition delay, so that if there's any projects that come through, they'll come to City Council. And quite frankly, in the short run that we have, the City Council is going to be meeting more often than some of our other advisory boards.
Motion to approve?
Nigel, you had a comment?
Thank you, Mayor. Derek, I don't know if this is the appropriate time to ask this question, but you brought up the 50-year term that we have. Yeah, I wasn't smiling. Is this the time to address that as well? And second part of the question is, can you find out, or how difficult it would be to find out what other cities, what is considered a historic building?
So there are, I saw a very interesting presentation by an architect a couple months back, and I'll find it, see if I can get it. And it explained the various forms of Florida vernacular. You know, the Sarasota School, the Miami Art Deco School, the Florida Cracker vernacular, a bunch of different things. And they were making a presentation to another community with respect to how to address these issues, because the standard sort of is to pick an arbitrary date and just say everything within this date should get a review. And so that's equivalent to demolition delay. Now, of course, this being Florida, you know, if this had been enacted, and I don't know the history of where we got the 50, if it had been enacted 20 years ago, well, 50 years ago was a long time ago, and there hadn't been as much construction now. Now, each year, exponentially more homes and properties are going onto that list. So with the restrictions that have been placed on us by the legislature, we can increase that number. We can't shorten the number. So,
No
and I didn't expect, I
No.
just want to make it clear. So we could make it property 70 years, property 100 years. But I actually do think that the analysis I'd seen in other communities where they didn't just look at what's on the historic registry or the historic districts, but also looked at properties that met certain vernacular styles. So if your community is trying to maintain a mission style Spanish approach, something similar to like with Bonita Springs Elementary, and you have an area that these kind of properties may qualify in addition to an age requirement. You wouldn't say, oh, just because someone built a brand new home that looks old, it's historic property. No, you do that as a combination. That would also help to sift out a lot of square boxes that are just old.
Well, besides cutting me to the quick with the elementary school comment, would this be the time to bring up or discuss raising the number of years that a building would be considered historic?
We could do it, not in this resolution.
No.
I'll have to come back, but I don't know of any reason why that number was picked. It's not a magic number. It doesn't cover anything with respect to any federal, state programs I'm aware of either.
Would council have an appetite for exploring that?
Absolutely.
I agree. I mean, it's, in addition to the years, there should be a clean statement as to what is the historic relevance of a particular building to get that designation. And I don't know whether it's a style or whatever, but there's got to be something tied to it that says that it's of relevance to the city of Bonita Springs.
And I think we need to look and consider whether or not it's a real building, and not a facade of something.
And can you just, the only what is the formal delineation between formally designated and greater than 50 years old? Is that the one that applies for the state historic preservation? There he is.
So I don't want to steal his thunder, but there's a demolition delay ordinance is just those properties that are 50 years or older that the board reviewed to request for a demolition delay on. It doesn't afford it the same review processes as an actual designated property. A designated property is a separate process of application, and we have about 24 within the city. And it does require the permission of the property owner to do so. And that is when the process of receiving either an administrative certificate of appropriateness or a hearing process of a certificate of appropriateness, which that board, of the Historic Preservation Board, is the final say on that with an appeal process to City Council.
Okay, so that's the formal designation. Okay.
It's such a stupid process, honestly.
Thank you.
Pretty well sums it up.
It's just a stupid process. I mean,
I think it was well-intentioned,
But
but
it's-
it's time we address it.
Okay, so I think you have a consensus on doing that, and there was a motion to pass this.
Second.
And a second. Roll call.
Mayor Gibson.
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick.
Aye.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Councilmember Bogaz.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Purdon. Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. City manager items.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. At this time, Lisa Roth, our Finance Director, is going to walk you through the process of accepting the proposals from the Audited Services Response RFP 25-21 and provide direction to staff. We did want to make clear, some of you have had direct outreach with Lisa, some with myself. You are not required to make a decision this evening, but we're here to help you, guide you through that process should you wish to do so. You also have the right as the functioning as the decision maker for this bid. If you'd like to have presentations, we would arrange that as well as a next step. But what Lisa will go through, there is a criteria that you are required to rank first, second, and third by a formal vote under the statutes.
Florida statutes. Hello, good evening. I'm here today also with Evan Grant, who is our accounting supervisor. We, as your two licensed CPAs in the state of Florida, are here to present these proposals to you. We're very excited that we did receive 6. And we have reviewed them, as well as our procurement manager, for legal sufficiency as outlined in the bid and in Florida statutes, and they are minimally responsible. So we do have, we have some data that is presented to you, the selection criteria. It's in your green sheet. As Arlene mentioned, it's outlined in your green sheet. Florida statutes requires you to award, if you should choose to move forward tonight, award to one, and even when you do move forward, award to one and rank 1, 2, and 3 among the 6 presenters.
And one thing we wanted to clarify for transparency, typically the process is your staff reviews bids, and we create an independent review board. That's the minutes of those meetings are recorded. We make a formal recommendation to staff, but Florida statutes requires that a minimum of two parties of the city council,
2 or more,
be a part of the selection process. And in order to comply the best we could with sunshine rules and holding separate public meetings of the board, it's best for transparency purposes that the entire council sit as that selection committee.
And to be clear as well, we are required to hire an independent CPA firm in compliance with Florida statutes. They come in every year annually and audit our financial report, our financials, and they present an audited financial report to the council. So they do work directly for all of you. So that's one of the other reasons why we had requested that the 7 of y'all sit as the board, and we look for direction from staff or any questions, direction to staff or any questions that you have.
Okay, any questions?
No, I would just make a comment that I'm sure all the firms are qualified, but I would caution against moving away with who we use now, simply because if you do that, you give up their knowledge of our people, our processes, our systems, and you in effect require staff to perform an education process for the new firm. And so I think the best approach is to, unless there's some glaring deficiency with our firm, Ashley Brown, that we should go ahead and at least rank them number 1. We can rank however we want after that, but that would be my recommendation.
Great. And for the record, staff has been very pleased with their service, and they have been presenting to you all. They've met all of our timelines and all the requirements by Florida statutes and the accounting guidelines as well for the time that they've served us.
Laura, you had a question?
I agree completely with what Chris said. And so ranking, Ashley would be first, and we'd have to do 2 others. I know that Tuscany, they're local. Everybody's sort of local, but, and then the Jenkins firm. So those would be my 3, but Ashley definitely being number 1.
Yes.
Okay. Are we okay?
Going in turn here, or?
I agree with them, Mayor.
Yeah, you would say I ranked Ashley Brown 1, Brown Associates 2, and Maudlin Jenkins 3.
Okay.
I turned my votes in the other day when I met with Lisa, and I do concur with the Ashley Brown, even though for public record, they are not the lowest cost. The incremental cost is about $1,000 or something like that annually. Thank you. And I think, again, there's been no issue with them. And typically, having been involved with prior public HOAs and so forth, there was a severe cost you pay in terms of the transition. So I fully support Ashley Brown as number 1.
Yes, I agree. If they've been happy with them, there's no reason to change.
All right, so do we just want to say Ashley Brown 1, Brow 2, and Maudlin Jenkins 3?
I would support that.
Just to keep it simple?
Second.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick.
Aye.
Mayor Gibson.
Aye.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Purdon. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Next item we have is the presentation of the preliminary fiscal year end financial report.
I'm actually trying to find this on the dashboard, so. I see 4 here. I see, is it? I don't know if someone from the back can come out and help with that. Someone from IT?
We might have to.
Can you hear me? Come out.
Man behind the curtain. I thought mine was 3rd, but.
Thank you, Oz.
Nope.
Yep. We can
The
be
one right
updated
above the
next
one
time.
you were just.
Yes, y'all can. You have the data in front of you, the slides in front of you. That is our preliminary fiscal year-end report. Please know that those numbers will change because we do continue to receive invoices and we're required to report them. And we will be doing some year-end audit adjustments for some of our grant receivables and things. But we're very pleased to present that data to you, and it's late. So if y'all have any questions about it, we'll be happy to answer them.
Okay.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you. The last item we have is the presentation of the Community Development Monthly Business Activity Report.
Good evening again. Okay, that's not gonna let me do it, is it? All right. We remain busy. And people keep showing up every day. We've stayed pretty consistent. Normally you would start to see an increase with season starting in terms of permits, people coming in the door. To a certain extent, we've seen a little bit of that, but for the most part, things have stayed higher. We don't normally see the peaks and valleys like we used to. It shows. So if you've got any questions or any thoughts on this, these seem to be coming up. Our monthly report seems to be coming up at every meeting. So I'm not sure if there's anything that needs to be recapped, but I'm here if you have any questions.
Yeah, Nigel?
John, I apologize because I'm not ambushing you with this, but I meant to call you Monday. Can you give us a ballpark now on the number of homes that have been demolished, single families have been demolished to date?
I'd have to, we have that exact number, but I don't have it off the top of my head. And I do know that we have, that I'll call you tomorrow.
For the next meeting, but
Yes, sir.
I think everybody would like to know that. And then where are we on as far as permits that have been approved for demolition, if we know that too, that have yet to be taken down?
If I'm not mistaken, there are 3 more that we're looking at in the short term that
3?
people in the short term that people are working with their insurance companies that we're looking to have them come down. But for the most part, most of those that have needed to or should have come down have already come down.
That's my next question, so we're there.
Yes, sir. Comparatively speaking, we are in very good shape.
Great. Thanks, John.
All right, thank you. Any other comments?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just a couple reminders. Tomorrow evening, 11/20/25 at 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Recreation Center is the FDOT Old 41 PD&E public hearing. Additionally, we will be scheduling meetings with council, individual meetings with council for updates to the comprehensive plan. And Dr. Margaret Banyan will have office hours here at City Hall on December 16th, 2025. She'll be available from 11:30 to 2 p.m. So if there's specific residents that have individual questions, they'd like to talk about the comp plan, she's available for one-on-ones, business owners, and we've had residents who've asked for those in the past. And then additionally, Tuesday evening, the 16th, we'll have a public meeting here as well. And this is primarily to discuss the state comments that we received regarding the comprehensive plan and the potential for any additional addendums we want to look to in the future. That would, again, come back to City Council that following meeting for discussion by Council as well. And then just to confirm, as I brought it up last time as a reminder, and we did get the dates back from the governor's office as well. We will be closed Christmas Day, the 25th, and the day after. And then again on New Year's Day and the day after. So regular business the other days. And we'll also be closed on Thursday of Thanksgiving and the day after, the Friday after. I did confirm Lee County staff has canceled their January 6th meeting. So will be more information on that unless we have a pending information about these boards that we're looking to consolidate or movement along with ordinances. We might be asking for a rescheduling of that 7th meeting because that does require staff to be preparing the agenda on Christmas week.
Do you also want to bring up Representative Botana's under your item, or do you want me to do that?
What I can advise is that the mayor has been asked by Representative Botana to discuss an additional appropriation. I want to share with you that I did speak with Hayden Dempsey. The representative is asking the request to be from the city for $1 million. It would be an appropriation of $1 million. There would be a necessity to use a match. We have previously used match in the CIP. This is for Bonita Beach Road. I understand it's a planning idea. Planning, visioning. I understand it was for the entirety of Bonita Beach Road to look at beautification options. And the ask is to legislature is for $1 million, and we have approximately 800 or.
Just clarify, the entirety of the public portion, publicly owned.
Public portion of the road.
Beach Road, and we have 800 and, don't hold me to it, but 59,000 in Beach Road visioning that would be identified as a match. And he was looking for landscaping and lighting, where appropriate. Obviously, that corridor has a lot of different variables for design dollars at this point.
If it's a desire of council, it would be best for staff to help assist with that because the documentation has to be signed by the mayor, and it also would require a vote of council to submit an attestation form with the request for the legislative appropriation.
If I may, Matt, when you say the entirety of Bonita Beach Road, how far east?
To Logan Boulevard.
Okay, thank you.
And the forms due Friday.
Yeah. So
And I do want to let you know, I did confirm with Hayden, all of the city's requested forms that we provided, that the mayor provided public participation on during the legislative delegation meeting, all of those have been submitted.
Great.
So are we okay with asking for another $1 million?
Sure.
Okay, and everybody's, so we need to vote on me being able to sign it, so.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second, roll call.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Purdon. Aye. Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Mayor Gibson.
Aye.
Councilmember Follick.
Aye.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
And staff did notify the county manager's office that the request is made by, and we will be notifying the state DOT as well, the state of Florida DOT, and Lee County DOT, so they're aware of the request.
Thank you. All right, mayor and council member reports. Jim?
Two things. First of all, I had the pleasure of attending the event for the Bonita Senior Center. I want to compliment that organization, its effort, its outreach to our senior citizens here in the city. It was a well attended event and included some fairly major commitments of resources for a potential capital program for that organization. So hats off to you, Chris, and that group there. Second one is my next to last reminder about the Wreaths Across America program being conducted by the Estero Island DAR. The formal ceremony will start at noon on Saturday, December the 13th. You're encouraged to get there because of the parking situation at the Bonita Springs Cemetery to get there about 11:45. If you are interested in observing and supporting our veterans organizations, the DAR, and the Boy Scouts and the formal wreath laying, there are approximately 151 wreaths being placed on veterans' graves in that cemetery, as well as an additional 8 wreaths being placed in front of flags representing each of the branches of service.
Thank you, Jim. Nigel?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Well, first, thanks to all the council members that attended our Veterans Day. And I don't know why people said it was cold, but I thought it was great. It's just gotten better every year. For those of you that weren't there and for the public, it was a very touching ceremony. We found out through a member of council, I believe somebody reached out to, was it you? Wasn't you? Help. A member of our community, his name is Dave Ross, and Mr. Ross is 99 years old. He turns 100 in March of 2026. Decorated World War II veteran, nobody knew. One of the nicer, most humble people you'll ever meet. But we brought him there, we honored him for his service, was able to find out, when I say hero, at the age of 17, he was serving on a merchant ship and shot down a German Junkers dive bomber, saved his ship and his shipmates. Numerous awards. Was also torpedoed at the age of 19. Obviously rescued and saved. He's lived here for 47 years, been a great citizen. And we surprised him with his great-grandson's commanding officer out in Texas, Sergeant Chastain is his great-grandson. Drove here 2 days, drove here to Bonita Springs, and a lot of people that were at the park said there's this sharp-looking young man standing in full dress uniform out off in the back, and they couldn't figure out who it was. He had no idea, so we brought his great-grandson up on stage, and if I had brought 100 boxes of Kleenex, I could have sold them, I'm sure, at a premium. But it was a very touching ceremony. Our junior ROTC, they get better every year. They were very helpful. We had 25 of them in full dress uniform. Colonel Lewis has done a real good job there. And also I wanted to give a shout out to our guest speaker, Colonel Span, Marine Corps and Army, did a wonderful job. And Master Sergeant Jerry Van Heck from the Marine Corps League, who's been our bugler now at numerous occasions. The day after Veterans Day, they were both contacted, and they both have been and will receive the Veterans Commendation Award from Congress. So they're going to get this award from Congress, then they're going to be interviewed and placed in the Library of Congress permanently, obviously. So it's a great event, and a lot of good things are happening from it. Last thing I wanted to say is, and I'm hoping that the mayor's going to talk about the Christmas cards. Let's get busy.
Also, you'd like a letter, I'm sorry, to.
Oh, thank you. Would council be okay if I asked the mayor to provide a letter of thanks to both the colonel, or guest speaker, and Sergeant Van Heck, thanking them for their services?
Absolutely.
No way.
Thanks.
And maybe we could include the honor guard, you know, like the kids.
We can do that next year.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all I have. Chris?
Couple of things. Received word this week that, or actually this morning, that the Fay family, owners of the Seminole Gulf Railroad, are preparing two kinds of proposals for us. I don't know exactly. I assume it would be a proposal for an easement and another proposal for a fee simple sale of the right-of-way. I received that information through Doug Hadaway of TPL. So he's anticipating that we would be seeing that sometime this week. I hope that's tomorrow, because I'm on my way out of town Friday for 10 days. But we're all digital nomads, so it doesn't make a heck of a lot of difference. I'll get it Friday or Saturday. The other thing I'd like to, I gather from a meeting I had yesterday that Arlene was in, that we don't allow access to the Lyles Hotel at this point, but we do have people that have events that are planned and booked and permitted downtown. And in the past, they have used the Lyles for part of their operation of those events. For example, Arts Bonita has the big Arts in the Park, or Arts Bonita Art Fair, I guess is what it's called. And they typically use the Lyles to to run their bank operations for that. So I would just suggest that if it's all right with council, that people that have planned events that have been permitted in the park, if they request to be able to go over to the Lyles and see where they're going to set up, that we allow them to do that. And maybe Arlene, you could
I
add.
just wanted to clarify that those folks who are renting the park or utilizing the park and they want to be able to have the option of the Lyles in space now that we've completed the renovation, that they can work with staff to get access to see if it works, and they can include that in their application. We understand in the previous times that the festival was downtown, Arts Bonita did utilize it for counting of funds, storage of items. There's been other entities that are renting or in agreement with the city to use the facility have been able to do so. But if we can work it through staff, that's helpful for us to keep it all organized.
Without objection? I don't think there's any objection. That's all I got.
Thank you, Chris. Laura?
Nigel, fabulous job at Veterans Day. Absolutely fabulous. You know, you organized it so great. I also had the pleasure of hearing our Congressman Byron Donalds down in Naples appreciating our veterans. And Estero had a really lovely Veterans Day on Saturday, gave out hot dogs, and it was really fabulous. School buses, people are running by the buses when they're stopped. And now all the buses have cameras. So if you run a school bus that has its lights on and pull out, you're gonna get a warning, then you're gonna get a ticket, and it's pretty severe. And it's also like 700 people just go by. Don't, because our little kids are perhaps crossing, and there was somebody killed. So we really do want to take care of that. And Denise Carlin is really on it, our new supervisor of schools. We're doing lights at the soccer field, which is fabulous. But what about Phelps Field, the Phelps parking? Could we do at least something temporary? Because it's so dark there, and a lot of people use it. Something to consider. Don't forget tomorrow to be at the rec center between 5 and 7 if you want to know what's going on Old 41 to Bonita Beach Road. And I'm happy that we're streamlining zoning, but still want that online magic happening. And I have to say kudos to Laura Terrell and team. They went from Halloween, phenomenal decorations, to Christmas seamlessly. And really, drive downtown. It is so fabulous. And so I'm just holiday joy all around.
Thank you, Laura. Jesse?
No, I just wanted to thank you guys. I saw some gifts. You guys can't see them on TV, but I have some little gifts under the dais from everybody, and I just appreciate it. For those of you who don't know, I had the pleasure of having a baby girl since the last meeting. So, and her name is actually Maisie Bonita. So Maisie Bonita Purdon. So she joined us 11/1/2025, and we got to bring her home the last week. So we're happy. We have one more Bonita. One more Venetian, so very exciting times for the Purdon family. So I appreciate the gifts. I appreciate that you guys, I wasn't at the last meeting. I try never to do that. And you guys, I watched. You guys did pretty good without me anyways. But I appreciate you guys.
We didn't hold the time down very well.
That's true.
Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
Jamie?
Yes, congratulations to the Burnham family. And echoing off of Laura and Nigel, the Veterans Day was amazing once again. From Chief DeWitt, they have entered into a lease agreement for the restaurant property on Hickory Boulevard. And the plans is it to become another restaurant. So that has started, and I think that's it. I just want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. You too. I also want to say the veterans event was a great event, and it was refreshing having it a little cooler that morning. Instead of everybody complaining about how hot it is, it was a good change. The only feedback I've gotten, and I've gotten it a few times now, is Veterans Day should be more of a party. So I think some people would like to see more events going on throughout the day and, making it a celebration. That's the only feedback I've received on it. So.
No, it's great feedback, Mike, and the fact is we've been trying to, and I think we've done a good job of Memorial Day is a solemn day, Veterans Day is a acknowledgement day, and yeah, hot dogs, everyone.
Yeah, a little party. And then we had the VCB breakfast the other morning to acknowledge everything they do, and it was Ranger Nicole, was it, or something? Got the award this year for everything she does for our county and the beaches. Ranger Randy. Ranger Randy. But I also want to bring up, we are participating in this year's 92.5 Fox News 10,000 for the Troops. They try to raise at least 10,000 holiday Christmas cards to send overseas to all the deployed troops. Mayor Allers out on Fort Myers Beach kind of kicked off that they were trying to raise 5,000 just from Fort Myers Beach, and kind of extended a little competition to all the other mayors and cities in Lee County to try to do the same. So I don't want to disappoint. I'm hoping we can win this thing. So if everybody could please get Christmas holiday cards, just a nice little note inside to the troops, let them know that, we support them and appreciate them being deployed at the holiday times. No personal information in there. You can sign it with your first name. You can say it's from Bonita Springs. No phone numbers, no pictures, anything like that, and no glitter on the cards.
What's the deadline for?
Yeah, we have to have them in. I have to turn them in on the 6th, so I'm asking if everybody could bring them in on the 5th. We'll take them here at City Hall, Bonita Rec Center, downtown at Heaven Sent Florist, and for Heaven Shakes Ice Cream, at Rooftop at Riverside, and Sugar Shack, and also the Terry Street Bonita Storage Inn, and beach storage across from the Publix at Bonita Beach Road and 41 are all accepting them, and they'll count towards our total. So.
And they have cards too.
Yeah. And I guess that's all I have, and I'm hoping to make it on December 13th for the wreaths. So. All right, public comment, and I think we do have some registered speakers for this one.
Andrea Inman, and she'll be followed by Seja Burgess.
Mayor Gibson, if it's all right, I brought some packets of information for all of you to review after your meeting or when you have the chance. My name is it okay to turn it into
Yeah, you can give them to the clerk over here, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Andrea Inman, and my home is approximately a quarter of a mile from the Sugar Shack. I've provided a packet for your review, which includes a cover letter that will give you more information about how the Sugar Shack has negatively affected my life as well as others, mainly by the bass music that penetrates the walls of our homes that you hear and feel. It provides information on DBA levels, DBC levels, amplified bass music, along with other information that I feel is important that should be reviewed by the council members. On August 31st, I had a sheriff's deputy come to my property with a sound level meter. The report's included in the packet. The levels of DBA were 64.4, which is 1.6 below a code violation, at a quarter of a mile away. The level for DBC, the amplified bass music that you can hear and feel inside of your home, was 74.4, 3.4 points above a code violation. The sheriff's office gave the Sugar Shack a citation warning, which was later rescinded. They told me the city of Bonita Springs noise ordinance does not allow for sound level measurements to be taken in DBC, which is for the amplified bass music. However, the city of Bonita Springs noise ordinance does state, includes low frequency sounds caused by amplified bass music that can result in vibration of structures or persons. However, it does not allow for the testing of the amplified bass music. I have a sound level meter, and this past Friday night, I took a video of the meter reading from inside of my home. You can see the meter moving up and down with the bass music. Highest level inside of my home was 62.5. Anything over 30 dB can interrupt your sleep. I would be happy to email you this video. I'm sure that when the city was going through the approval process for the Sugar Shack, that none of you could have anticipated the high volume levels that the Sugar Shack pushes to and does exceed, that they would be promoting ticketed concerts with standing room only, month-long battle of the bands, and bar crawls. I would like to see the noise ordinance changed to allow for the measurement of the low-frequency bass sounds, the DBC levels. Due to the fact that the Sugar Shack is located 1 block away from residential neighborhoods, the maximum allowable DBC level and DBA level should be kept under 60, and meter readings should be taken within 100 feet of the source property, which is the Sugar Shack, in order to protect the people who are a half a block behind the Sugar Shack. I am not an expert in sound levels, so I'm not even sure if these levels would be low enough to help the immediate surrounding neighborhoods. Another way of measuring is by using the plainly audible method as used in Orange County, Florida, which is also referred to in the packet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll check out the packets.
Seja Burgess, and she'll be followed by Doris Sexton.
Hello, my name is Seja Burgess, and I bought my house in the Nothing Like It Grove neighborhood in 1994. The house was built in 1978, almost historic, not and I'm the second owner. And I've lived here full-time since 1999, when I retired from the military, the U.S. Navy, after 22 years of full-time active duty service. There have been hundreds of complaints lodged against excessive noise from the Sugar Shack. If you look in your packet, there's at least 156, I think, in the 10-month period. They're not consistently logged as noise complaints. When I call in, I always say noise violation or noise ordinance violations, but these are generally called nuisances. And also, my neighbor Andrea and I also are given the same case number when we call the same night, so the reported case numbers sometimes are falsely low. I even frequently have to leave my home in the evenings because the vibrations inside my home are so stressful. I still work part-time, and at age 70, I kind of like dread driving home from work. I step out of my car and I hear this bass vibration, and it follows me inside my house. The Sugar Shack, it's a beautiful facility. I mean, it is. But it's set up like a megaphone. The way the roof of the Sugar Shack goes, it's like a megaphone going directly at my house and Doris's house. And there's no batting on the roof, there's no sound insulation, there's nothing. If you look at the packets that you'll be given, the very front page of the packet, there's a direct line drawn from the Sugar, it's an aerial view, drawn from the Sugar Shack, and it goes like boom, it goes right to my house. So you can see how that is. We never have trouble with noise from the Riverside Park for their activities there, because they have insulation in their roofs, and they have some soundproofing there. Sugar Shack has nothing like that. They've violated the Bonita Springs Code of Ordinance, the Ordinance Article 2. You should have a copy of this too. Section 2020. The Bonita Springs finds excessive and loud noise interferes with the comfortable enjoyment of life and property, interferes with the well-being, tranquility, and privacy of the home. And it says that effective control, loud and noise are essential to the health, safety, and welfare of the city's residents and visitors, and to the conduct of normal pursuits of life, including but not limited to recreation, work, communication, and rest. Okay, so the ordinance just needs to be followed. This is scaring me, I got like 15 seconds left. Okay, I've never complained about anything before in my life. I've lived here for years, you know, and I love Bonita Springs. I think it's a beautiful place. I love how everything's developed. Okay. You know what I said, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your service.
Doris Sexton, and she'll be followed by Barb Ryan.
Good evening. My name is Doris Sexton. I am a resident of Bonita Springs. Sugar Shack has changed the peaceful way of living on East Drive behind Riverside Park. The noise can be heard and felt from the inside of my home. It is disturbing. It changes the atmosphere completely of just having a nice evening at home, such as not being able to concentrate and relax while reading, the simple pleasures of just watching television without having to put the volume very high. To be able to tune out the noise and vibration of the bass is impossible. 2 days a week, I have to get up at 3:30 a.m. to go to work, and it's pretty stressful to wonder if it's going to be a loud night. The bass music penetrates the walls and rooms of my home that I can actually hear and feel. It robs me of a stress-free evening in my own home. My husband has stage 4 incurable cancer, and the noise is challenging and it's disruptive and it interferes with his personal care. We have enjoyed and loved where we live since 2014, but Sugar Shack has changed that. I'm asking you tonight to please consider correcting this situation at Sugar Shack for those of us who live nearby. It would be wonderful to be free of this noise disturbance. I am hopeful, and thank you for allowing me to share.
Thank you.
And the final registered speaker is Barb Ryan.
Hi, Barb Ryan. Listen, I'd like to do two things, switching topics to ADUs, the auxiliary dwelling units, and the regs that the city may have. I'd like to first talk just a little bit about personal experience, and then actually ask the city and the city council to look at some more uniform regulations across all districts based on some more consistent algorithm across all the districts. So, but first of all, I'd like to thank the council and the staff, because over the last year and a half or so since Councilman Corey raised the issue of ADUs, we've are pursuing doing one to house my 84-year-old sister-in-law. And what raised the issue, we live in District 5 behind the old library and rec center, and 2 streets over in District 1, I saw some houses on North Riverside that had ADUs in the back that are actually quite large. And so in conversations with the city, the regs that apply to our property is 500 square feet or 50% of the size of your house. Well, it turns out that 500 square feet, whichever is less, so 500 square feet is the ADU that we would be built. And so the whole issue that tipped this over was that just 2 streets over, they have much larger ADUs in the downtown district. So in conversations with the city, I understand that the strategy is to increase density in the downtown district. I totally get that. But I think there are some unintended consequences from a policy that's not consistent in our district, just a few blocks over. So we've got larger lot sizes than those downtown, but the ADU that we're capable of, that we're eligible to build, is actually smaller than the one downtown. So while 500 square feet is likely going to be enough for us, we understand it's got to be subordinate to the house, it may not be that adequate for other people in our particular district. So the unintended consequences, I think, by the city not looking at this is garages are getting converted on, with no permits. How people are renting rooms to exceed 6 adults, which I understand is your definition for a family in a house. That brings more cars on grassy areas. And I just think if you could think about, maybe through this workshop that you've been talking about for a couple years, could think about some algorithm of percent of property, percent of your lot, and have that be consistent across all 5 districts.
Thank you, Barb.
Thank you.
I didn't sign up, but I guess I can speak. You'll understand the costume in a minute.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. For the record, Dwight Essman, Paradise Road area. You just heard Barbara, my friend, talk about why her and her husband want an ADU. Let's take that personal and make it universal. ADUs are an old concept that went out of favor with the advent of suburbs and zoning laws. You can call them guest cottages, mother-in-law suites, an apartment for the kid, a servant's quarters. It's a place where someone can live in a nice apartment, pay a reasonable rent, and perhaps help out the people who are living in the main house. The state legislature is going to pass a law that will force you to allow ADUs on single-family lots. And I sent all of you an email that has the text of that potential state law and a list of recommendations on how I think we can permit ADUs that will benefit the community. And they will help make Bonita Springs a better city for many reasons, primarily because they can provide workforce housing, which will also help businesses hire and retain good employees because those employees won't have to spend an hour or two commuting each way. They will help reduce traffic, particularly on the major roads and highways, because people won't have to commute from Cape Coral or Lehigh or Immokalee to a job here in Bonita Springs. They might even promote new friendships and community. Maybe that's the most important reason to craft a good ordinance that encourages ADUs. It just might help people get to know people who aren't exactly like themselves. Wealthy people might get to know some people who aren't well off. Older people get to know some younger people. Blacks and whites and browns will perhaps get to know each other better than they ever have. ADUs could actually help create a better community. Now, Barbara, Chris, and I have been talking to community development, and Chris has been talking to the council about ADUs for about 2 years. It's time to be proactive and do something about this issue before the state forces it. So at the next council meeting, I hope someone on council, someone other than Chris, will ask community development to take the ideas that I've outlined in my email and present you with their ideas, and then let's have a public meeting and hear what they have to say. And I'm going to leave you with the immortal words of Larry the Cable Guy. Let's get her done. Thank you. And then one final comment. You guys had a great discussion on the issue of combining the boards. It's nice to see that happen.
Thank you, Dwight. Any other public comment on anything? All right.
Motion to adjourn?
All right, so moved. We're adjourned.